So let's give a big hand, everybody, drum roll please, or whatever, for Jake, Stewie2k.
Thank
Yay!
you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone. Thank you. Oh my God. I do like how so far the audience is Taylor and Sir, who I hung out with both of them on Saturday, which is really great. So also, oh, and we got a new sub. Thank you so much for subbing. Yeah, let's go. And Sam's here. Oh my God. It's the whole crew. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be with me here tonight. It is nice when you get paid in beer. It really gets people to like be on my show, I've noticed.
I've actually been trying to keep up with your show a little bit. I've been looking it up. I've been trying to get some insight on it before I came on, just so I
You're
know what I'm getting into, you know?
Hopefully you
But
skipped the episodes where I had me talk about which characters from the Yakuza games I'd have sex with. Hopefully you got all the PG
I'll miss
questions.
that one. So I gotta look that one up, that's for sure.
You know, when they say run your show, do what you feel like, I'm like, you really got to give me more rules than that. Because I can just talk about whatever and I won't have a filter or a limit. So, which makes you a perfect guest. Because the first time that we met, we did that really funny video for Elysian where we drank Space
Mhm.
Dust in the middle of the afternoon and then had to do a opinions video, which came out really good. I don't know if you've watched it, but it's really funny.
I saw some glimpses of it, but I'm the person that kind of doesn't like to watch myself too much. So when there's a video of me, I kind of look at the comments. I base it off that, like if it's a good video or if I did well. But a lot of times I don't like to. I guess it's just one of the insecurities, I guess, where you hear yourself and you just don't like hearing yourself. I don't like
Uh-huh.
hearing myself, but yeah, it's one thing I hate about it.
You
But
read the right? So it's like, wait, you read the comments? What's wrong with you?
well, I block off all the negative ones, but I'll take it as I did a good job. You know, people would say, "Oh, it's exciting to see Stewie or Lisa," and then I'll just keep it as that.
Like that's all we need. Well, I think for the 8 years I've done stand-up comedy, the number one rule I've realized is never read the comments ever, especially
Oh
for a
yeah, I think
woman.
that's just in general for any influencers or content creators out there. I think that if people are talking shit, you know, I think it's better to just keep them on the outside. You know, if they're talking shit, you're doing something right. That's how I like to look at it.
Yeah.
And you just eyes forward, keep it forward, and just block out all the noise. You know.
I started using, do you use TikTok?
Actually, when TikTok came out, that was the one app I never downloaded. I feel like nowadays social media is just so blown out of proportion, you know? Everything's so sensitive, political, and you gotta really watch what you say. And I feel like a lot of people that post out there, it's not like really what they are, it's not how they would present themselves, and it's more about being on the trend, talking about the normal topics, what society is like not liking, they're hating, you know, and then
Oh
they kind
yeah,
of hop on the train.
anything that gets heat, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And then I try not to be on social media too much these days. I kind of been inactive on social media, but I'm trying to get back to being active. But TikTok's actually the one app I never downloaded, never used. I have a TikTok myself. I'm trying to start, and I haven't even looked at it too much. So,
Hey, you know what? I have TikTok and I started posting TikToks and they do really well. But I don't really watch that many because like it's like what you said, I don't need another app to be addicted to. Like I already have
exactly, yeah.
Instagram and Twitter. I Now that Twitter's under fire with Elon, they're like, we should all join Hive Social. I'm like, I don't want to sign up for any more shit. Like like I need to like go outside and see people. Like I can't just keep downloading more apps. But
I think the I think the worst feeling is when you go to bed and you lay in bed and you stay there for an hour on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and then you just mess up your schedule a little bit. So
oh
I
yeah,
try not to be on it too much.
for me it's, and Taylor knows this because I've given her so much shit. She got me addicted to a mobile game, Slay the Spire, last year, which is a card game, and I didn't know I had it on Steam, but I never played it, and so I found out you could download it on mobile, and I'm pretty sure I put in like 400 hours just specifically playing it right before I go to bed. So yeah, that's why I'm a little quiet at night on social media, guys. It's because I'm on a different app and all my alerts are off. Also, it helps putting your phone on sleep mode at like 9 p.m. That's what I
Yeah,
do.
actually, a lot of people do that. Like when I'll go through text messages, people have them silenced. I've never tried it before, but I think that's something I should probably try.
I do it on accident. Sometimes I'll be in the middle of a conversation with someone and be like, this bitch hasn't texted me back. And then 2 hours later, I'm like, oh, she's been texting me the whole time. My phone's just been on sleep mode.
It's more like you're leaving them on red, right?
Yeah. You know, that's how you play hard to get. You just put your phone on sleep mode all the time and then you never message them back and it works. They're like, damn, dude, this girl's hard to talk to. I'm like, no, it's just my phone. It's fine. No, but TikTok's funny because so I started posting like comedy clips and stuff and those do well. But then I started posting gaming clips and it's just nothing. Like the
I
discover,
think
yeah.
I think it really depends on the person. Like I feel like I'm the total opposite. Like if I don't post any gameplay or anything like that, no one watches it. Like people wouldn't pay attention. Like I'm sure
But
if
if
I
you
tried to
did,
do the
but if you
if I
did
tried
stand
to
up
do the
comedy,
content, no, I can't do stand-up comedy. I'll be the worst comedian out there. But I think if I tried to do the things that you would do, people wouldn't watch as much, and maybe vice versa, because that's just what we're known for, you know?
yeah, it'd be really weird for you to make jokes about periods and then post them
Oh
on
yeah,
TikTok.
definitely.
Write
I'll
him a
probably get
joke for
canceled for that.
TikTok. You know, that's kind of my job, is I could just write you content that I'm like, do this and it'll make someone laugh. But no, it is funny because it's like, they always say TikTok's best for discoverability, which it is, because the first TikTok I posted on there got like 70,000 views. I was like, oh shit. And then I posted more and they kept getting more views and more views. I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to post like stream clips. And it's like 500 views. I was like, oh,
Yeah,
well,
I feel like it's hard to build. Like TikTok's actually a good app for. I feel like it's very casual. You know, you can always get one video out there to get it, numbers or whatever. But
they
it's
pay
very
you
hard to.
$7.
Yeah, it's very hard to like keep it consistent. You know, like the numbers and keep it up there. It's very hard to like compete with the rest of them, but it's part of it, right?
Well, it's also like somebody, like I will watch people who do very specific things. Like I've watched this girl's TikTok where she has like videos of her cat at night and you can watch what her cat does. But then she started getting like really famous. So then she's tried to do her own TikToks where she said like really dumb jokes. I'm like, girl, this is cringe. Like, don't try to switch what you like. We only care about your, like, I'm sorry to be mean, but we only care about your cat cam. Like, we don't care about you. And it's like mean because I'm like, that would be like, that's kind of like what I'm doing is that I'm posting comedy and people are like, oh my God, I love your stand up. And then I'm like, here's a stream clip. Like, we don't give a fuck about you playing games. I'm like, sorry, I'm also a gamer. Like, so then I just go back. I'm like, I'll just write gaming jokes to kind of be like an in between and then we'll see how they do. But it is hard. Instagram does really well though. Instagram pays you a lot. They're gonna definitely get rid of that next year. I have made way too much money off Instagram Reels. Like it's like, oh, I think your mic cut out. Oh no, we lost Stu. No, you're still here. I just can't hear you. Did the Discord audio turn off? Did you mute yourself?
No, I
Nope,
don't
here
think
you
so. It's
go.
better.
You're back. You're back. Maybe
All right.
maybe they're like, don't talk, and they just made you stop. No, like TikTok. I think like I've had 3 videos get over millions of views. Like my last one did like 200,000, and off of that last one, I made $6.82.
It's tough. I think it's part of the process, you know? I try not to look at YouTube or Instagram or Twitter or any social media where you can kind of benefit off it. I try not to look at how much I can benefit. I try to look more at, how much it grew from. I look at the long run, like the money that you put in or invest, the time or anything. It's all a part of the process, and hopefully one day you can make it there where you can make it all back or even more, for example, but you never know if you can actually make it back, you know?
Well,
So I feel, yeah. Go
it's
ahead, sorry.
no, it's fine because it's like it backtracks to what you were saying where it was like you're doing good when the comments start to get bad because like I can see that. I'm like, "Oh, this slip isn't really getting really good." And then all of a sudden it's people being like, a girl trying to be funny and oh, you're too old and blah blah blah." And I'm like, "This is how I know the video did well." Is that it's like the internet hires people to be shitty to you. Like that's how you know you won. It's like
Yeah,
it's like getting a Grammy, except for the Grammy's just a bunch of mean comments with men's names and numbers after it. Like that is what the internet does.
actually, when you mentioned that, there will be a few streamers that I will tune into. for example, like Foosley or anybody that has kind of like a community for themselves, and
Mm-hmm.
I would tune in there and I'll be a little jealous of how great their community is, you know, how long it took for them to
You'll
build
just be
it.
mean to them. No, I'm just
No,
kidding.
not mean to them, but it's more so that they can come on every day and they have like a community that backs them up.
Uh-huh.
And opposed to mine, I mean, it has to do with me. I feel like consistency is key, and I haven't been very consistent. But when I show up on my stream, it's like a lot of different viewers. You know, it's a lot of disputes, it's a lot of arguments, and I feel like it's
You're like, where is this
hard.
chaos coming from?
Exactly, and I feel like it's a lot harder in your shoes when you try to, for example, go out of your comfort zone or try to do something out of the ordinary. And I feel like if people see that, they tend to say more stuff that are, you know, insensitive, and
Yeah.
they'll just say whatever they want. But I feel like that's part of the internet, you know? Like
Do,
nowadays people just like talk whatever they want, say whatever they want, but they wouldn't do that on a
no.
normal basis, you know?
There's been times where I've been harassed by people on the internet and I'll look at their accounts and their entire account is just being mean towards people. And I'm like, dude, go to therapy. Like what?
They made it specifically to hate on
Yeah,
you.
like they're I will look at everything. They're always replying shitty things to people. I'm like, who has the energy and the time for this? Like if someone argues with me on the internet, I just stop replying. Then be like, oh, I got her, blah blah blah. I'm like, no, I just don't have time to argue with a 12-year-old, you know?
I think the same. I think a lot of it is like that nowadays. Like people, like the hate that I get on Twitter most of the times. Like if I spend the time out of my day to read it, and I'll go through. Like if it actually bugs me, I'll go to their account just to check it out, you know. And most of the times it's like a burner account where they'll retweet giveaways. They'll just talk a lot of stuff and like make a lot of noise, and it's not like who they actually are, you
Yeah.
know.
You'll look at the account name and it's not Lisa Wallen 282 or something. It's not me, I promise. Do you find that that has to do a lot with the nature of the games you play too, though? Because
Um, I feel like it comes a lot from how I come off on people. I think when I first started esports, I joined Cloud9 and I got a lot of hatred like joining Cloud9 because no one's ever made the risk of taking on like a new potential player that is young, and at the time like they were recycling a lot of experienced players. And I can understand the other perspective. Like I came off as egotistical, or I can come off as overconfident, cocky.
but you were like what, 18?
I was like 18, you know, I
Yeah,
was still
see.
just a kid learning on my own, you know. But I was getting a lot of hate, and I think that kind of reflects a lot about why I get the hate. But at the same time, it could be, you know, my actions as well, or what people have this perception of me. And I try to block most of it out. I try to stay in my own lane, and for the most part, I try to just keep my head down and just make sure I believe in what I do. And then none of it matters. But I think a lot of it has to do where I come from and how it all started. And I think there's just like a lot of tension on me, and it usually just goes how people say, you know, when times are rough, like you're gonna get a lot of hate, but when times are good, like it's almost you're just riding the
You're
wave,
always
you
gonna
know.
get hate
No one's talking
regardless.
shit, no one's like saying anything bad, you know.
Everyone's gonna hate regardless. Like you could be the funniest, you could be the best gamer, someone's gonna hate you. It doesn't matter. But also like
100%.
I used to be mean to like I don't want to say children because like yeah 18 is a child. I'm sorry if you're not old enough to drink, you're a baby, okay? Like your
100%.
brain is not fully developed, but like they're supposed to be shitty. I'm sorry. This is why I don't play Fortnite. This is like I know like I'm gonna be mean to 12-year-olds, 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, but you know what? They're allowed to be like that because that's the age you gotta be a dick, and then you grow up and you be nice to people. So if there's like
I was like that too.
yeah, there's like
I was like that too.
there's like a fresh 18-year-old coming out of high school and is going pro game. I'm like, this guy's gonna be a little shit, but we just allow them to do that because you know what? That's the age you gotta be a little shit. That way, when you're 30, you're stop being a little shit. Because there are people who were very, very nice in high school and never went through that phase of being mean. And they get mean when they get older, when they're like divorced and like depressed. And then they become
Better
dick.
sooner or later.
Yeah.
Better sooner or later.
Start when your brain is fresh. Be a dick for a few years and then be nice. I'm in my dick phase right now. So like
I think I passed mine like years ago actually.
I was really nice growing up. I was this big people pleaser and I was all sweet. And now in the last 2 years, I'm like, I've been kind of a dick to everybody now. I was like, am I going through my mean phase finally?
It's
You know?
probably more about like prioritizing yourself, right? Like just your wants and needs, like just making sure you put yourself first rather than, other people. But I can see why it could come off as like, being a dick.
I think it was because years of like, I mean, you kind of probably relate to this too because it's like I obviously never got on the level of professionalism you did in your field, like as far as like comedy and stuff goes. But I was like, I was just, I think I'm funny and I want to go be on stage or I want to stream, and it's like you just get the backlash alone for being a woman. Like that just is like
Hmm.
no girl should be telling jokes, or you only get booked because you're hot, or you only get booked because they needed a girl on the like there was like nothing I did made people take me seriously. And that over
Hmm.
time was like, you know what, then I need to stop trying to please people, don't care about what they say, and do things for myself. And then ever since then things have just gotten better because it's like they see you and they want to walk all over you because they
Yeah,
are like,
100%.
I need a little bit of power, I'm gonna attack this innocent person online telling a joke about food. It's
I think I'm on like the opposite side of what's going on. Like before when I was younger, I was a lot more confident in myself and what I'm doing. And I would block out the noise then and kind of just mind my own business, head down, and just focus on what I'm doing. But as time goes on, I think when there's more eyes on you, more pressure, and you have to live up to other people's expectations, I think that's where a lot of the noise started getting to me. That's where I start thinking, where you have your head straight at one point, and then when there's so much noise, you start believing it that is true. And then you start thinking that you gotta start changing, you gotta start doing other things for other people, and then you start realizing how unhealthy that is. And then I think that's where I'm at right now. So it kind of started on the opposite side.
you're in your spiritual part of it now.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
because
Yeah,
you just like you were more of a professional gamer than you were a streamer. Like streaming is more
yeah.
fairly new to you. What made you want to transition just to doing more content? Just because you need something a break from the competition?
So I've been thinking about, well, it wasn't necessarily going to content creation. I felt like that was always an option for me. I think I loved streaming in the beginning of my career. When I was on Cloud9 before, I loved streaming. I would stream all the time after practice. I would have a lot of fun. It didn't feel like a job, to stream and like I have to come on every day. I enjoyed doing it a lot, and I felt like I built like a little community at that time. And when things got a little rougher, where I prioritized more competition and raising trophies and trying to just aim for what I want, I think that's where I took more attention away from streaming. And I think that's where it's like this for any streamer. You go MIA for such a long time. People will move on, they find other streamers, and
Yeah.
you can't really blame anyone but yourself. But for me, when Valorant first came out, I was streaming the beta and I enjoyed it a lot, Valorant in general. And in 2019, I was a part of Liquid then, and we were having this amazing run. We were winning a lot. We just started, and everything was kind of like a dream come true for any competitor in esports. Like you're winning it all eyes on you. Everything feels good. It's smooth sailing. So it's kind of a hard decision, but I was already thinking about kind of transitioning to Valorant in general and maybe becoming content creator or maybe becoming competitive in Valorant. But anyone in my shoes will understand that it's a very tough decision. You're winning a lot. How can you give that up for something that you're unsure of? And I decided to stay on Liquid then. And towards the end of, I'd say maybe when COVID first started, I think that's where it kind of went a little downhill and things were getting a little rough, and I wasn't enjoying CS as much, and I was still thinking about maybe jumping ship, becoming a content creator, or transitioning to Valorant in general. But CS made me who I am today, and they gave me a lot in my life that I never thought I would have, and all this exposure and a lot of love, honestly, throughout my years, and I didn't want to give it up just yet. And then things got a little tougher and tougher, and for me, I really had to decide what I thought would make me happy.
Mm-hmm.
And with CS, it just became such a routine to travel like throughout the entire year, and we would travel 200 plus days before COVID started.
Oh wow.
And most of our years on the road. It could go like month boot camp, month on the road, and then month on the road again. And it's almost like you're at home the least. So you, at most, like we'll get home for like 2 weeks max, and then we're back on the road for a month to month. And that started in the beginning. It was very enjoyable because there were a lot of places we haven't been.
Well, yeah,
There's tournaments that
and there's like the whole like, oh my god, I travel for work. Like there's like this fantasy about it, and then
exactly
you're like,
like
this
it's
is
like a dream come
exhausting.
true, you know. But yeah, eventually it becomes exhausting, and you start questioning whether you're going to enjoy as much. And in the end of EG, when I transitioned to Valorant, I would see some comments where, well, it's a part of your job, you know, and like you should like be
Ugh.
thankful for that stuff. But like in my
I
head, it's
fucking
like,
hate people who can't like, yes, like you are a professional, but you're also a person that should make their
hmm
own decisions. Like you don't work for anyone but yourself and whoever company represents you. So people saying that shit's like, thank you.
it's very
I'm
inconsiderate, you
just an
know.
object to you. Sorry. Like, ugh, that's annoying.
I just picture it as they won't ever understand from my POV, you know? Like I used to say the same stuff in terms of like I used to watch Shroudy when he was playing CS and he would stream right after practice, a lot of that, and you start thinking, well, why wouldn't you stream every day? You have so many viewers. But they don't take into account that it's very draining. It's a lot to like entertain other people, a lot to turn on your stream and be there for hours, especially like right after practice, and they don't understand any of that, and they just think, dollar signs. But it's not.
Right?
I'd rather prioritize my own health and what I want to do than the money that I'm gonna get, you know?
Which is
So
impressive for someone your age, because a lot of people now, because of since COVID, since everything is like everything is content, I must create, I must do, there's no burnt out part of it. It's like everything now is about grinding. You just got to grind to do things. I'm like, but that doesn't, you don't get good content and you don't make yourself happy if you care more about putting out things without making it good.
exactly,
Like you
you
can
gotta do
tell, yeah.
what you enjoy the most.
Yeah, and you can tell when you're watching someone play a game and they don't enjoy it.
hmm
Like it's just like they're just a roll in their eyes, or this is what they want. And like it's funny because like I'm a variety streamer. So like I play mainly like single player games and I switch off between completely different series and I get way different audiences than I had. Like I built my stream playing Yakuza games. I don't really play them anymore and I noticed like so many of those people are gone and that's fine. Or same thing with Dark
hmm
Souls or whatever. And everyone's like, oh yeah, it's really hard to be a variety streamer because like you never know what your audience will be. I'm like, I also think it's just as hard to be someone who plays one game because it's like you
hmm
said, you built like your following or whatever playing CSGO or Counter-Strike, and then you're like, well, now I want to try something else. And people are like, no, 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 we don't want you to do that. And you're like, but I want to.
hmm
So it's just as hard, you
I think
know?
that's the toughest part. Like I think I was streaming the other day and I was talking about how I don't like to present myself this way because I didn't plan my day around the stream. And I figured that I should be streaming. It's still early and it's good to put in some hours. And eventually, like down like an hour or two, I was already feeling kind of drained. And I would rewatch my VODs and I'll kind of see how I act. And I feel like I would bring down a lot of the energy. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't like doing that. And I feel like it's not a good representation of myself or like how I would like to present myself, and I feel like I would force myself to stream, and I don't like to show that. And I feel it's a little tough to always maintain that, especially when you play only one game. And for me, I think the biggest part that people don't understand is that when you start being competitive in a game, and you put a lot of effort into making your team better or like trying to make yourself better, that you don't really have that same type of enjoyment when you play casually or like when you stream, unless it's with people that you enjoy playing with. But most of the times, it's pretty tough to put yourself out there all the time and put that same level of energy and effort every time.
It's also
So
exhausting. like,
yeah, it is
like
very exhausting.
it's so funny. Like, I get two different types of friends now because I have all my friends that are comedians. I have all my friends that are streamers. And, like, my comedian friends think that streaming is really easy, that you can just go live, have viewers, make money, and you're just sitting there, you're not working, which is bullshit. Then I have my comedian friend or my streamer friends that thinks comedy is really hard, which is also bullshit. like, streaming is way harder than comedy is ever. I mean, like, comedy is hard if you struggle making people laugh. But
Mm-hmm.
like that's also the struggle with stream on top of being completely yourself live and being consistently entertaining and keeping a community. There's so many more. I don't have a comedy community. I have dudes coming up to me after a show being like, I want to be on stage sometime. That's the community I get from comedy. But streaming, it's like you have your Discord, you have your obviously your mods, you have your regulars, like and I've
Mm-hmm.
know people who treat their Twitch communities like they're nothing. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like you can just tell, like they go live and they're just like, well, I don't know what I'm gonna do today. You know, like no
Mm-hmm.
one's gifting me money. Like blah blah. I've seen so many people do that, and I'm like, dude, this is not how you stream. I've had people ask me if I could raid their channels sometime to give them viewers. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna do that shit, dude. Like I'm not gonna bring my community someone who clearly just wants views. You
Yeah, I think
know?
that's actually the worst thing you can do as like a content creator, where you're kind of showing desperation that you need, like raids or hosts or anything like that. Like for myself as well, my stream, I feel a lot of people selling out is kind of like one thing, and like joking around about it is like one thing, and I understand why people do that. But on my stream, I feel I never ask for subs. I never, go out of my way and try to like sell myself out.
Yeah.
I kind of let people do their own thing, and if they enjoy what they watch or they like how chill the stream is, I kind of let them decide on their own. No obligations.
You can be like me and set up a sub goal and then not do any of the things that you wrote on there because you expect people to give you money. I still get
No,
I still get crap from my subathon I had in July. They were like, "When are you gonna start all these streams that you said you were gonna do?" I wasn't expecting people to actually give me money, so. But
when I
I've had so many people start streaming and they'd be like, "Okay, how do I make money doing this?" And I'm like, let me know when you find out. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I went into streaming because I couldn't do comedy and I wanted to do something fun over the pandemic. And now I just love doing it. You
mhm.
know, it's
I
like,
feel like that's
yeah,
it's a good thing. It's like you have two things to balance
you're
each other.
bamboozled. My chat's mad at me because I brought it up that they were bamboozled.
I I feel like streaming is actually a very hard thing to get into. It's not that easy. There's so many streamers out there that everyone's been there at one point where you have to start from scratch and you don't know where to start and you have to build off something. And the way I've always pictured kind of receiving exposure and just kind of blowing it up out of nowhere is somehow creating a reputation for yourself and excelling in whatever it is that you play or show or create content in, and just stand out from one another. And that's like the best way to get exposure, but that's also very hard to do. And you never know when the time comes. Like it can come next year, it can come the next day, and you never know how everything pans out. So I feel like streaming is actually very hard to get into, and like if you have nothing to base off of, or to really ride some momentum, I feel like it's very hard to like find exposure since there's just so many other streamers trying to do the same thing you're doing.
But it's like you can also tell again, like when you watch someone's content. Like I like there's certain animes or like animes. There's certain anime and movies, TV shows that I watch specifically because I can just tell how much fun and how much love they put into producing it. Like I'll watch a
Hmm.
show and be like, "Oh, you can just tell everyone had so much fun doing this show." Or so much or
Yeah,
someone and like there's a big difference when you watch that versus something that just feels like this just feels like something like
it's like
Disney
forced.
or something wanted to put out just to have a cash cow or something like there's a
Hmm.
and that's the same thing with streamers is like when you can tell when people genuinely enjoy doing their content and that's the kind of content I like is that I feed off other people's passion and humor and
Hmm.
whatever and if they are genuinely enjoying what they're doing then I want to be part of that community.
Yeah, 100%. I
Yeah.
see a lot of people out there that there's a lot of skill sets that they have just as a person that I wish I had for my stream. I feel like people, if they treat their community as if they know each other for a long time, and they always keep up with each other. They try to maintain this relationship together. And throughout my streaming, I don't want to say career because it hasn't really like been a full career yet, but just during the times that I've been streaming, I feel like most of the people come in for my gameplay, and it's not more so for who I am or what I am. And it gets a little tough because people come and go here and there, and you never know who stays.
Yeah, Yeah, it's hard to
And
maintain a community,
exactly, yeah.
especially on a game like Valorant where it's so big. Like I play games that are like I'm playing Metal Gear Solid, which is like 20 years old. So it's like no
Hmm.
one's watching that except for like the people who love that game. But like so many people, they go to like, especially games like Valorant, there's so many people playing that game and so many people streaming it that's like it's hard to just narrow it down to like, okay, there's only 10 people streaming this game right now, so I'll just bounce between these 10 people. There's hundreds of thousands of people streaming Valorant at the same time.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's hard to like build a community on a game that isn't, I don't want to say not community based,
Hmm.
because like there are people who are very very like Valorant is my shit and I want to follow content creators who specifically do that, but like I can imagine that being a struggle, especially for someone like you that went from competing to just streaming, you know.
Yeah,
So it's like
I think
yeah.
I think it's a little tough. There are some tough aspects when it comes to transitioning to Valorant as a streamer, and just seeing where I can go from there. And when I first started to transition, I had good numbers, and I would be, one of the top three, top five streamers in Valorant at the start. But I also knew that I wouldn't maintain that because, announcement just came out, hypes around me, and people are just probably tuning in just to check me out, see what's going on. And eventually the numbers would go down, and there would be it's because of my inconsistency as well as a streamer and not being able to be there consistently. And aside from that, though, I feel like it's a lot different in Valorant compared to CS. I feel like the Valorant community, they are toxic in different ways, but
They're a lot more
they're
fresh though.
exactly. I think they're more humane. Like the CS community, it's more like a bunch of people, your typical gamer that kind of hides behind the screens, no identity, and they give you like hell. They'll just start talking the worst shit about you, and they'll try to point out the worst stuff about you.
Oh,
But
God forbid I add my voice saying hi. They're like, oh, God, it's a woman. Like, just immediately. Oh,
I
my
feel like
God.
that's just online though. Like
Yeah, that's just
it's
the
it's
internet.
impossible. It's impossible to like have that type of criticism
They
or
find
like
out
that
your
type of
your
opinion.
gender, your race, your age, like any factor they can get on, they're just gonna pinpoint that onto you.
Hmm.
But like okay, like I don't, you probably already know this. I do not play first person shooters, mainly because I just the combination of using mouse and keyboard and looking in first person makes me nauseous. It's like a motor skill that I don't have. Maybe if I have a controller and a lot of drugs to not make me nauseous, then I could probably get through it. But like I remember in high school, like I played Counter-Strike very, very briefly and Halo 2 with my friends because I'm old. And like I was okay back then, but now that I'm older, I can't get into it. Like I think it was last year. Yeah, it was last October we did a LG trip out to New York, and Tarek, is it Tarek or Tarek?
I
Tarek.
call him Terry, but I've heard people say Tarek, Terry. It's like potato potato.
Yeah, he came out and he was streaming him play, and he was like, "Why don't you come here and teach, and I'll teach you how to play?" And I was like, "Okay." And so he had my hand on the mouse, like he did the keyboard movements, and he was like, "Wow, you're actually really good at like aiming and shooting." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm really good until you give me my other hand." Like I can do one thing and that's it. But like it's like for me, I was like, have these graphics updated since I was in high school? Because like the game is still like the same game, it looks like
It's
to
still the
me.
same,
So
actually.
so yeah, I can imagine like I can't just easily pop into a CSGO game because everyone's been playing it for like 10 years. Like I'm just going to get murdered, you know? Like I feel like I would struggle with that. I feel like Valorant would be way more up my alley.
The thing about CS is I think it's been out for so long, like almost like all iterations of Counter-Strike has been out for at least like 20 years, something like that. And I feel
20 years ago I was in junior high.
20 years ago I was just born almost, I was 4 years old.
I can't believe to forget that.
But I think that CS is probably one of the hardest FPS games out there,
Oh God,
and
yes.
I think it's been out for so long that there have been I've been in Uber rides. I've been in, just in the most public places, talking to whoever, and they would ask me what I do, and I'll tell them, I play CS for a living, and people that look old, like maybe in the mid 30s, maybe like close to
People that
there,
look old, my
yeah,
age, yeah.
they would
I
talk
have good
about.
genetics. I know. It's fine.
You have good genetics. I think you look like my age.
I'll take
But
that.
I feel like they have an idea of what CS is, and that's very surprising. Like CS has been out for so long, and they finally made it somewhere, and it grew in esports, and it became kind of like the face of FPS games in general.
Yeah.
And I just think it's amazing how far it's come, and it finally made like a name for itself, and it's still sticking around. But it is definitely one of the hardest FPS games. I don't blame you. Like Valorant was created to be easier than CS, in my opinion, and that's why like a lot more casual fans play it, and I
I feel
think that's
like
why
a
it's stick
lot of
with it.
people went from CS to Valorant. I feel like that was like a natural transition for a lot of people.
So a lot of people, the meme is that
Am I allowed
when
to
you,
talk about this? Is this a sensitive subject?
I wouldn't say it's a sensitive subject. I think it's kind of like you don't want to let people kind of make the reason why you made the switch to
Oh
Valorant.
yeah. Yeah.
Like when I look at Valorant and I see the people that have swapped from CS in the beginning all the way to
Also, not to
Valorant.
sidetrack you, I just think it's really
You're
funny
good.
that my cat somehow managed to be on this. He was just standing right behind me the whole time on the stream. I have two cats. They're annoying. They'll do everything they can to pop on camera, and I hid my chair so we couldn't see them, and he was still behind me the whole time. So
He's looking for some attention,
he knows he just wants to be a streamer too. But sorry, back to what you're
No, you're good.
saying.
You're good. Don't worry. I was saying that a lot of people who transition from CS to Valorant, the meme is that if you can't compete in CS, you eventually switch to Valorant.
Oh, that's a
And I think
meme.
that's what, like the people who talk, who make a lot of noise, that's what they say. I think it's more of a bias thing towards like the game itself, and it's hard for people to accept it. But I think the people who have transitioned from CS to Valorant, a lot of them have made potential for themselves for the future. They've gotten opportunities that they couldn't get in CS. I think CS is just it's so competitive at the highest level that it's very hard to look at it as Sam, for example. I was just watching a stream before I came on, and I look at him where he had potential to be competing at a high level in CS, but you're not always certain if he can. And at the time, on my own opinion, it's very hard to take a risk on him because he didn't show too many signs if he could really do it. But there's a chance that he can do it. But he switched to Valorant and he created a name for himself. He kind of paved his own way for a bright future, and he's just maintaining what he can maintain. And I think it just gives people who couldn't have a chance in CS to have an opportunity in Valorant and kind of just have that same level of success, but in a different game. And I think Valorant offers that for a lot of players. And yeah, maybe some is too late for them to transition, but the game's only growing. And I feel like it just gives a lot more opportunities for other people.
Well, I also think as someone who's like an outsider of all of this, like you're getting this from the most ignorant point possible, I would just rather choose Valorant over CSGO because it's prettier. It just looks prettier. So I want to play it. I mean, I casted an entire tournament. Can we talk about this for a second?
Yeah, go
So
ahead.
last Thursday we had a Evil Geniuses like employee party here in Seattle, and all the people who worked were to do a Valorant tournament. And it was hilarious because you had half people who've never played the game before, and then you had like come in and like our Valorant what is it, Kurt? I think he's like our Valorant coach or player coach. I don't know what everyone's roles are. I'm terrible. But anyways, you had pros and novices on the bottom level and the top tier mixed teams together, and then they were like, who's gonna cast it? And they said, why not get Lisa? I'm like, I don't know anything about Valorant. So they had
I feel like you're the perfect fit for it, though.
so we had me and two other coworkers This is the first time I ever watched people play Valorant too. So I'm like learning as we go. It's like, okay, so there's like 5 people on each team. Okay, and then like you plant a bomb. There's defenders as attack. Okay, so there's 13. I'm like learning as we're playing, and then I was like, you know what? This actually looks really fun.
It is pretty fun actually. When you get to know it, it's pretty fun. I picture it as kind of like it's League of Legends,
Mm-hmm.
where when you first look at League, it's very hard to understand what's going on. There's so many different champions, there's so many different spells or like skills,
Yeah.
and in Valorant it's kind of the same. There's different agents, and until you understand the abilities that they do, it's very hard to really understand what's going on.
I also feel like I when I first started at EG, I was like, I think I might want to play League just to see what it's like. And everyone's like, you can't just like play League, but have fun. Like I was like, maybe if we get like 10 people together, we could do it. And now that I watch Valorant, I'm like, I'd actually play Valorant, even though it'd make me nauseous. If I took enough medication, I could get through it.
When
My
was the
problem
last time you played?
the last time I played any first person game at all was
Yeah.
like 2 years ago when my stream had me do one stream of Alien Isolation and it was terrible and I hated it. But I like third person shooters, like single players. Like that is something I'm gonna discover I like. So I'm like I feel like Fortnite would be a lot more up my alley now that you don't have like builds or whatever. But I feel like I'm like, you said old people. I feel like I'm too old for Fortnite. I feel like I need to go right into the dangerous stuff, like Valorant, you
I
know?
feel like you like the story mode, the campaigns more, right? When
Yeah,
it comes
but
to
I
it.
also like the idea, like, I never played, so, like, I grew up mainly playing single player games, like, my whole
Hmm.
life. Because multiplayer, like, online gaming didn't come out till I was like in high school, junior high, high school. Before it was just like you played, Zelda and whatever. And so I kept that path going until high school, and all my guy friends started playing Xbox and they were playing like Halo together, and I go over and I play with them and we have our little like LAN parties, Back in my day, we
Hmm.
have a little LAN party. And I still never got into it because I was like, I didn't really like the people I was hanging out with. And now almost everyone I know plays competitive. They play multiplayer. And I'm like, well, I want to play with friends. And so we co op in games, but that's not nearly as fun as like having a team.
Hmm.
So I don't know, maybe this next year will be Lisa's big first FPS arc where I just become like the toxic gamer talking shit to everybody. I go
You
through
gotta
my
get into
I
it
go
first,
through
you
my
know?
I get through my villain arc next year.
I think it's like that for like a lot of competitors though. I feel like a team setting is what everyone prefers in general. Recently I've been trying to scrim in Valorant just so I can not be a stranger to the game and really know a little bit about the competitive side of things and the competitive scene and how things run within a team. And I see a lot of similarities when it comes to CS, but once I first started and started playing more and more within the team, you start losing that feeling for the casual play. You start losing that same, just that same passion, I guess, when you play casually and you just want to play with your team all the time. And it's just more fun that way. You talk with your friends, you mess around, you make things more coordinated. It's not as, kind of free flow.
See,
But team settings are nice.
I'm also scared of it because like the reason why I can co-op with my friends is because I already put X amount of hours into a game and I'm
Hmm.
ready to see how it's like playing with other people. My problem with games like this is that like I'm gonna start in a game and everyone's gonna hate me because I'm gonna be like, how do I move again? Which one is the shoe? Like this is gonna be me. How do I do? Do you get shields? What is this a smoke bomb? I'm gonna be that person, and everyone's just gonna say the worst things to me, and then it's gonna break me. That's what I'm scared of.
I think it's actually very hard to kind of explain how to play it. It's more of like you have to experience it for yourself and learn on your own in the beginning. I remember when I first started Valorant, the beta version, and I was a little late at the start. And Jordan Nothing Gilbert, he was playing already, and I just hopped in. I played with him, and I was asking him a bunch of nonsense. I was like, "Hey, how do you play this guy? Like, what does this guy do? Like, where should I put this, or where should I use this?" And it just kind of correlates with what you're saying, where you ask like a bunch of questions that might annoy other people, And I feel like I was like that. But over time, once you like learn the basics, it becomes easier to transition to, and you kind of got to go through it on your own, and then kind of get the training wheels off, you know.
My stream will hate me. Watch me in like 6 months. I become a Valorant streamer.
But that's like content in
But I
itself, you know.
just stay bad at it. Like I don't ever get better. It is funny because like now that I stream, like I have all the dudes from high school that I went like that were all the gamers in high school and made fun of me for not being a real gamer or whatever. I'm like, sorry, I play fucking Zelda. Okay, I didn't claim to be anything else. They always ask me like, when are you gonna stream like Apex? When are you gonna stream like fucking literally every single game you can think of that I don't play? It's all competitive games, and I'm like, I don't, because like I don't embarrass myself on stream, and they're like, well, you're not a real gamer. I'm like, hey, I never claimed to say it was a real. I don't go on and be like, hi, I'm Lisa, I'm real gamer streaming right now. But also, that's such a dumb argument because like there's so many people I know who can't play the games that I play. It's just a different set of skill, you know?
No, I'm the same as you. I don't like to embarrass myself, especially like on stream. Um, like a little thing that has happened recently, I've been changing peripherals. I've been trying to test new mice, and there are days where I think I don't have much to do. I should probably stream and get started. And in my own head, I kind of trick myself and lose confidence because I just started swapping to a different mouse or something. And I feel like majority of the people come in and they expect me to perform. And if I can't live up to their expectations, it's like a little embarrassing, or you get made fun of and you become like a little conscious about it. So
Yeah, but it's
I
like
understand what you're,
it's
I
like
understand what you're feeling, you know?
no one's 100%. I've bombed enough on stage to just not care. But for me, it's like I don't want to piss off people I'm playing. I don't want to be at risk for their game. Like I don't care about embarrassing myself for my chat. They've seen me do some stupid shit. Everyone who's watched the stream, anyone I work with has seen me do dumb shit. It's people I'm playing with that are strangers. They're gonna look at my name and be like, I'm gonna make sure this person never plays with me again. She just asked me how to use a shield.
I feel like some people in the moment they're so heated. You know, I feel like I've gotten into many of those situations and I feel bad that way. Like I am pretty blunt and I'll say things how it is. Like if I'm playing Valorant and I'm streaming and we're like losing a game that we shouldn't lose, I'll be saying stuff like
you'll be
how it
yelling at
is. You know,
me.
like no, I wouldn't yell, but like I'll say it to the stream where, oh man, like this team is bad. Like these guys are just bad. You know, like it's just how it is. But after the moment, after everything goes on, I start thinking, like, that was kind of uncalled for. I shouldn't be saying those things. You know, they're probably fans at the end of the day.
Watch her pass collide, and you're like, this old woman needs to give up gaming forever. I'm like, hey, I'm trying my best here.
People are ruthless. People are ruthless on Twitch and any social media these days. They'll just say what they want
because they don't have lives. Like even if I didn't like someone, I'm not gonna go make like they're doing their job. I'm not gonna. You have to be a pretty awful person to go out of your way and ruin someone's day.
No, 100%. I feel like that's what I picture most of the time. Like they are just so sad, like so. Like there's so much negativity in their lives that they gotta go online, take the time out of their day, write some stupid stuff, and that's how majority of like Twitter works, in my opinion.
Oh, years ago, I had a guy consistently harass this. I've told this story before. I had a guy consistently harassing me, like on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, just saying terrible things to me.
The same person?
Same person. I finally got fed up, and I like posted my friend. I was like, I need to get this guy to stop. Like he keeps like making new accounts to like be rude to me. And she's like one of those crazy people that like goes deep dive and will figure out where someone lives and all their stuff. Like I'd be like, who is this guy? Like she's like she should be a detective. Well, anyways, she found his Facebook, got a bunch of screenshots of the terrible things he was saying to me and sent them to his mom.
Really? And then what happened afterwards?
He called me 3 days later crying on
Really?
Facebook Messenger. I was in the middle of the day. I was walking with my dad. I get a call from this guy bawling his eyes out, saying that he got kicked out of his mom's house. Can I just tell you real quick, this guy was like 40 years old. Like, this is not a kid. He kept saying like, I just fuck around online and you were just such an easy target. And I, like, yeah, you're right. Like there is someone behind the screen. I'm so sorry. And it's probably jealousy. It's probably blah, blah. And I'm just like, bro, just Just leave me alone.
Just,
And he was
just
like,
calm down.
and he's like,
Everything's all good.
that's it? I'm like, yeah, like, I don't owe you anything. Just leave me alone. He goes, okay.
Hmm.
And then, like, he would send me he sent me a message every week after that, like, sending big apologies and telling me how he's going to get his life together. And I was like, I don't care.
Care.
Like,
Yeah.
but it was just the funny thing that my friend was like, I'm going to get him where it hurts, sent it to his mom. And of course, it's just what you said. The people who go out of their way to be shitty online. It's like, this guy is like in his 40s, living in his mom's basement, harassing women online all day. Like,
It's almost like just projection, you know, like
he probably has Cheeto fingers. He probably has cans of Mountain Dew on. He probably has he probably has balding, and he's just have hair all the way down here. The man was disgusting, but it was the mere fact that it's like, you are textbook exactly who I thought you'd be. But also very funny to a call from a random guy crying, and I'm like, I can't understand you. Like,
I think if I was in your position, I would have no idea what to say, you know. Like, you know, someone's kind of hurting out there, and from hearing it, it just sounds like he's going through a tough time, and he's kind of like taking it out on someone else, you know.
yeah.
Like,
That's why
he says you're an easy target, so he takes it out on you. But I feel like a lot of people online are kind of like that. For me, there's times where people would post like the stupidest things, and it would get to me, and I'll even reply. But I try not to reply back that harsh, but I'll get them. And they'll reply back with, "Oh, it was just a joke. I'm like a huge fan." And like usually that's like most of the times how it goes, you know.
they're like, I hope you die, and you're like, what? You're like, I was just kidding. I really like you. It's like, you don't say that to people.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
here's the thing: is that like people don't understand that your tone does not translate on the internet. Like, again, like me doing comedy, I hate telling people I do comedy because all of a sudden their like shitty sarcastic self comes out, and I'm like, I can't tell if you're being mean or not. Like, I'll post, like, a really pretty picture of myself, and they'll be like, oh, someone's desperate for attention, or somebody's, like, lonely or some shit. I'm like, what? And they're like, oh, I was just kidding. I'm like, well, that's really mean and also true. Like, I don't like that you're pointing that out to me, okay? Like, yes,
yeah, some people are just out of pocket.
Like, let me get validation in the moment, but don't point it out to me. But, well, that's the thing is that, like, I kept feeding this guy's energy, and that's why he kept harassing me. And saying, oh, you'll never find out who I am. My friend found him. Sent to his mom. Immediately, like, 180'd. Apologized. You know, like, saying that this was his hobby. And I'm like, don't do that. And then was shocked they didn't yell at him. I'm like, I don't owe you anything. Like, I'm not going to preach to you about not being a shitty person. You are literally harassing me on multiple accounts for no reason. Besides the fact that you didn't like that I'm, like, a female comic or something.
The fact that he has the time of the day to use like different accounts and like keep following you, you know, that I feel like that speaks volume in itself, you know.
Oh yeah, people are like that. I mean, that's the best thing about Twitch versus stand-up is because at stand-up you'll get hecklers, or you'll get like really gross drunk people after your show say mean things. I've had people just really just invade my personal space, and I'm like, at least on Twitch you can just ban them.
Yeah, that's
just
true.
press the ban button. You know, you don't have to. No heckling. No gross drunk dudes with beer breath coming up to me after a show and telling me how I shouldn't do comedy because I'm a girl or whatever. And also the arguments people have are so annoying. It's like if you're playing a game, it's like you suck. You'd be like, yeah, I'm moving on to the next round because I suck. Like, I agree with you. Like, you're not making fun of me. You're just pointing out the obvious. It's like, ugh.
So how many shows do you do for comedy? Like, let's say weekly or monthly.
I wish my actual dream would be to do like if I could stream mainly and then do comedy on the weekends, that'd be amazing. But it's like virtually impossible to do a lot of comedy right now. I was really smart about starting streaming during the pandemic. A lot of comedians had no backup plan. Just like, I'm just going to wait for the stage time to come back. I'm like, we don't know how long this quarantine's going to be. I'm going to move on. Also, like, comedy is, like, it's constantly having to, like, redo, like, you have to earn your place every time. Like, if I reach out to a club right now and saying, hey, you should book me, they'd be like, I need proof to know that you're bookable. Like, you need to come to an open mic. You need to come to a show. You need to show me that you'll show up. I'm like, I'll show up if you book me. Like, I'm not going to go on my way to come to a show and hang out. Like, but that's just how it works. And I just got tired of that. Yeah. And, of course, when the pandemic ended, that's when, during pandemic was like when TikTok blew up, you know, because everyone's making videos and blah, blah. And so many people who got big on TikTok, Twitch, whatever, were like, I want to try stand-up. So I started going to open mics right when like COVID restrictions lifted, and I was like, who are all these randoms here? And they would go on stage and they would tell a joke that they were like, this will be like a good 15-second clip for TikTok. Like that comedy has turned into, how can I make this go viral online versus like, how can I become like a better comedian?
At what you do.
And I was like, I don't like the energy that is comedy now. Not saying all comedians like that. There's still a lot of comedians, including myself, that are like, I just want to be better at comedy. But even I started falling in a trap where I'm like, oh, this is a new bit I have, but it's too long. I should shorten it. And I'm only saying that because I'm like, well, I might want to post it online and get my laughs quicker, which is a good method for comedy, but it shouldn't be based around how the internet feels. It should be based around how a booker feels. And so now it's hard because so many people are trying to do comedy, and I live in a state, Washington, where it's not, we have like 5 clubs and there's like 200 people fighting for spots at those clubs. I don't try though, because I'm like, well, I stream, but there's like 2 clubs here that book me regularly, and I try to do like maybe 2 or 3 shows a month, but it's hard. It's hard, which is funny because I'm better than I've ever been at comedy, but I don't get booked nearly as much.
How long have you been doing comedy for?
It'll be off and on 9 years in February.
Jesus, actually a long time. So who did you look up to as a comedian?
I like how you're interviewing me. This is how all happens.
Sorry, I'm just curious.
No, this is it. The 6 p.m. mark comes, all the questions switch around. I get it. No, I love it. People who stream on Twitch and in the gaming industry make me feel way cooler than I am, because in comedy, no one give a fuck about who I was. And then I started streaming, and streamers like, there's a streamer who does comedy? Oh my God, that's so cool. Because there isn't like any streamers that do comedy.
It's like, very rare to hear someone say they do comedy, you know?
Right? Like,
I think you're actually the first person I've met that says they do comedy in esports, actually.
Yeah, it's and I was like, well, now I gotta play this market, because the only other comedian that I know that does streaming is Ron Funches, and he's like a big comedian. So like, and so he's already, but as far as like us little people, like I don't really know a lot of. I mean, I have my friends that are trying to stream, but none of them, you know, knock on wood, have had, I guess, the luck and the success that I've had, you know, in the first couple years as a streamer. But yeah, it's interesting trying to do both though, because comedy requires you to write. Like you have to write a bit. Like I had an observation about something and I want it to be funny, so I'm gonna write it. And it doesn't really show who I am. Like my jokes are like observations that I had, or like I have a joke on my TikTok. My most watched one is I have a story about my stoner parents. Because I found, like, I didn't know my parents were high when I was a child. I just thought they were really nice, and turns out they were high, like that, like that. Like, there you go. Like, it's a goofy joke. And that did really well, because it's not really me per se, but it gives you an idea of like how I was raised versus streaming, where it's literally just me. Like, I'm not trying to get a laugh out of anyone. I'm not trying to come up with a punchline. It's just me reacting naturally to things. And so that made me better at comedy, because it taught me like, oh wow, like I can
be yourself,
be myself. But it's tough because I don't get booked enough to like do that. Like, in fact, I'm coming to LA in January, and a bunch of my friends were like, you should do comedy when you're here. I'm like, it's really hard for me to get booked. So I ended up booking a private venue.
Really? Just for yourself?
Just for myself and whoever of my friends want to go. And I have a bunch of people already going, and I'm just going to host a private comedy show, because that's how people get booked now, is they just run their own shows, and then someone else runs the show, and they're like, hey, if you book me on your shows, I'll book you on mine. And like, that's just how people get booked now, and it's crazy. So,
well, I'm close to LA, so make sure you
I will literally send you the link, because there are some people from EG, and I've actually, you know, the Valorant dudes, Jagamo's going, Com is going. I made them buy tickets when I was hanging out with them. It was like,
give
hey,
me a ticket for free.
But
they gotta buy it.
They'll buy you a ticket probably, but like, no, it's great, because it's like, I know exactly where I'm booked and who I'm going to be on the show with, because I booked all the comedians, and I can make fun of everyone who shows up. I'm going to roast, I'll roast you in the audience too. But yeah, it's just weird, because now it's like, I have to figure out, do I want to be a successful comedian or do I want to be a successful streamer? And so I'm trying to figure out how I can combine both of those.
I
And
think
like I mean, comedy doesn't require nearly as much work as streaming, but it is. Most people think I quit comedy, even though
really,
everything I post on Instagram is a comedy reel.
I feel like comedy is actually a lot harder than streaming, but you have a different perspective of it.
I think it is on if you're not used to writing, yes, because I think the writing part is harder, and it is like you said, like the shame on stream when you do bad in a game and like people making fun of it. It's so much worse when you tell a joke on stage and nobody laughs.
Yeah, actually, it must be really like it kills your confidence a lot, right?
But it's also, you think about it this way. Usually, if you don't get a laugh, it's because you're in a tiny room with not enough people. Because the more people you have, the most likely you're going to laugh. Or
Hmm.
you just says, okay, I just need to write a better joke. And so many people are like, ugh, I just saw everyone see me bomb on stage. And I'm like, these people are not going to remember who you are at all in a week. Like, I've seen hundreds of comedians do bad on stream, even or bad on stage, including my own friends, and I don't remember any of it because you just
Hmm.
don't. Unless
It's
you
just in the moment.
Yeah, unless you go on stage and say a bunch of slurs or something, like no
Hmm.
one's going to remember, but if you're like told a really bad joke about fast food, they'd be like, "They tried." And that's okay.
I feel like, well, maybe it's just because I'm comparing, like being a comedian. The way I picture it is like trying to be a rapper or a musician or like a sports player in
Yeah,
the real
rapper
world.
is my backup just in case nothing else works out.
You
No, I'm just
can't
kidding.
rap.
You're like, you can't. You already know. You're like, you can't
I
rap.
can see it. Yeah.
I could
I just,
try.
I just think since it's in the real world, it's actually a lot harder to really excel there. And there's just so many different prospects or so many more people trying to do what you're trying to do as opposed to esports. And I feel like that side is way harder than streaming or whatever it is that you do in esports. But I think you have a different perspective of that, right?
Oh yeah, like I have so many friends, like, like during the pandemic I had a roommate that was like just religiously playing Valorant with all of his friends. And he would invite me in to play and I'm like, I won't even try. He goes, "Girl, you play friggin' Dark Souls. Like why can't you play Valorant?" I'm like, because no one imagine going to Dark Souls with five other people and you have to beat five bosses together and you don't know each other. Like that intimidates me. And
Hmm.
except for I'm bad at it. Like I'm good because no one else is competing with me. Like they have
Hmm.
like the PvP stuff on those games and I won't play them because I'm like, then people will know that I'm bad. Like they think I'm good because they watched me play by myself. But if I had someone else there, they would kill me immediately. We
But you
talked about
gotta,
this. You have the competitive nature that I don't have. Like I need that competitive nature because like for one thing, women in comedy are very mean comparatively to women who stream. Like women who stream are very like supportive of each other, and there is a
Mhm.
lot of support in the women comedy community, but most of them are like, "Fuck you, I'm making this for myself." And it's like that was a hard lesson for me to learn, that like people are just looking at me as competition. And you probably get the same thing, like it's like you build connections with people playing games online, but in the end, like they're your competition.
I'll tell you a story about, well,
Yes.
since I used
Story
Psalm as an
time.
example earlier. So I think this was a couple years ago, and Psalm was still playing Counter Strike. He plays Valorant now, and he streams. Um, so a couple when he was still in Counter Strike, and he was this up and coming, very young prospect with potential.
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning, I think he started joining a few teams here and there in the professional scene, and things became more stagnant for him. And I had someone come up to me and say, "Hey, like, why don't you try helping other people that need help?" Like he mentioned Sam. There used to be a player named Lasky that played Counter Strike and he's streaming Valorant now, or like Sabrosa, for example, that streams Valorant that used to play CS now. Like, why don't you try like helping those guys? Why don't you try, giving them some tips, some advice on how to get there or how
But
to
you're
get
like,
better?
here's some kind of bad advice, though. I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
I thought I didn't. I knew he was just trying to get me to like help other people who need help. But I've always thought as a competitor that I will never make anyone better except the people that are on my team. And I always thought that, well, if I help the next guy, like if I help Sam or Sabrosa or anybody that, kind of shares some light on how, I view the game or like how I think to help them get better, that within a year or two, like the next days, they will take my spot and I'm gonna regret helping them. It's all part of the competitive side and it's not that we're working together to get better. It's more like I'm just helping them to get better.
Well,
And
that's
it's just kind of
also not true too, because if that was the case where helping someone you're scared to get better with you, then every person who watches you has a chance to get better because they could just copy your skills and your strategy. It all has to do who has the drive and who has the skills behind. I did a controller, but you play with the keyboard.
so I
whoever,
think
whoever has
skill set
behind the mouse. There you go.
I think the skill set in terms of having the ability to understand and learn is important. And I don't know if you watch a lot of CS, but back in 2000,
I did when I was
so
like 16 and trying to impress boys, you know. But
that was a while ago though.
yeah,
It
but
wasn't
now they're all
not
sad
more recent
and
times, right?
now they're all sad and divorced and in my DMs. So it really worked out 15 years later. But anyways.
But anyways, so around 2017, 18, I was still playing CS on Cloud9, and at the time, the Brazilians were the best team in the world. They were like dominating for like a long time. And there's this player that came out of nowhere called Zera. He came out of nowhere. He became the best player in the world very fast. Um, they became the best team in the world. They were unbeatable. And at one point, I had a lot of questions by just watching how they play. Like I could watch a team and I could figure out why. I can ask the questions why, how, and I can answer them myself. But with the Brazilian team, I couldn't figure out the whys. I couldn't figure out the hows. And even playing against them countless amount of times and like losing to them, I still couldn't figure it out. So one day I messaged Coldzera and started talking to him about some situation and asked him, hey, like I just can't understand like what to do when this happens. And he gave a very simple explanation. And I've seen them do it before in their team. And I was like, okay, now I understand why they do this and what makes them like the hows and the whys. And eventually, everything started like clicking super fast. Like he helped me a couple times, and everything just started clicking so fast. And eventually, he probably doesn't know it, but I know it. Where if he didn't tell me this, I probably wouldn't get to where I'm at today.
Hopefully he's not watching. He's gonna ask for royalties. The
Hopefully, he
coach,
doesn't ask for a paycheck. Like
coach,
I helped him get there.
I need a percentage cut for telling you that one thing years ago.
Hmm.
But yeah, I feel like that's also like it's the same thing of getting advice for anything. I've gotten so much advice that just like lives in my head that I'm like, this somehow helped me shape comedy. Like it was the whole thing where it's like I was scared about bombing on stage, and they were like, when was the last time you saw a comedian bomb on stage, Lisa? I was like, I don't know, like years ago. Like, exactly. Did you remember that comedian a month after you saw them? Like, no. Did they
Hmm.
say anything that was like really offensive? Blah, blah. I was like, no. I'm like, exactly. You keep that mindset every time you bomb on stage and you're not even gonna care. And that helped me get through all of comedy is I would do bad. And I even say, you know what? I did bad on that joke, but at least I'm hot. And then I move on to the next joke. And like, yeah, people laugh. Like, there you go. Like, it's like, I did bad, but fuck it. I look good. So move on to the next joke. And like, and I would say that on stage and it works, or you just like, people just come up with snippets that they
You
say.
gotta be innovative.
Yeah. Because it's like, and that person who told me that advice years ago still lives in my head. Like, these people are not going to remember tonight in a few days. They're going to remember the best bits and the worst bits of the night. Just make sure that you are not the worst bit. That's why I never write anything offensive. All my jokes are very clean, so that the worst thing would be like, she tried really hard to make a joke about fast food. It didn't work out. Like, that's like, they're not going to remember that, I'm wearing a
Actually,
crown. No, I'm wearing a giant clown scrunchie. But yeah, because I'm still trying to look youthful.
that
Yeah.
that kind of brings a question in my head. Like I watch some comedians I watch like Kevin Hart, but Bill Burr.
I love Bill Burr.
Um,
You
I
asked
love
me
Bill
earlier. I
Burr.
never even answered your question. You asked me who some of
Yeah.
my favorite comedians were. Norm Macdonald, who passed away, unfortunately, was always one of my favorites. Mark Maron, all the old men. Yeah. But as far as
Hmm.
like comedians are still, I love Tom Segura. I love Bill Burr. It sucks too because like a lot of comedians I love just get shittier because male comedians are just historically bad people. A lot of them are. I used to love Dave Chappelle. He fell
Hmm.
off sadly really late in life, but yeah, a lot. Basically, probably every comedian you like, I was probably a huge fan of one point in my life.
And actually, you say that you try to avoid a lot of, the stuff that where people can really get on you about, and like you try to keep it friendly. But I feel like most of the comedians, like Bill Burr, for example, I laugh a lot like when I watch a lot of the stuff, but I feel like it's because he's trying to speak the truth a little bit, but at the same time in a joking manner. But he has like that, I guess that pass to kind of say whatever he wants, jokes about whatever he wants, you know?
Well, he's
And
also a lot more rough around the edges than I am.
yeah.
If you're listening
But
to this yeah.
I feel like most comedians kind of just they speak some type of truth, but they try to get it out there with a mixture of, some stuff they kind of go off of, or like yeah, I don't know how to put it, but I don't know what the correct terms are, but like they'll speak some of the truth around it, I guess, and they'll kind of find their way to like maneuver around it so that they kind of,
Well, it also helps too that Bill Burr's like from Boston. Like he's just like a rough guy. It works out for
mhm,
him. Like you kind of have to find your. So the first few years in comedy, one rule you learn is how do you have to tell people who you are at the very top. When you come out, you introduce yourself in some way. You don't just come out and be like, so does anyone here drink coffee? Like you immediately have to establish who you are so they can get an idea of how your material is going to be like. Like me,
okay.
I used to come out and I had a joke about being tall or being lanky or smoking weed or whatever. And now I talk about being a Twitch streamer. So, and that kind of shapes you. Bill comes out and he's just angry and tiny. So everyone just expects everything. Like I love his podcast. I used to listen to his podcast all the time. And I'm like, how is this man always angry? But living his best life. Yeah, there is a lot of comedians that can do that. Honestly, the main reason why I never wrote really offensive materials because my parents came out to every comedy show I had for like six
You can't
years,
show it.
which is so funny because my parents were not strict at all growing up. My parents, zero curfew. I was allowed to do whatever I wanted, which is why I am a very disciplined person who cleans like excessively. I think they created a
Hmm.
mental illness from it, but like a good one. Like I'm just really clean. That's fine. But like my parents were like big time partiers when we were younger. They let us watch rated R movies. Like we didn't have any sort of discipline. So you would think that I would be a lot more loose with my comedy. My parents would be like a lot more like, yeah, like talk about whatever on stage. But if I go on stage and I say the word shit, my mom will audibly gasp in the audience like, oh, my daughter is swearing. And so now I'm like, I can make jokes about you guys smoking weed, but I can't say shit on stage. Like
Hmm.
that is what you get. I can talk about like you guys drinking, like partying, blah blah. But God forbid I say the B word. Like that's so I just forever just would not write any jokes that were like mildly offensive, had swearing in it. I wouldn't write any relationship jokes or anything because my mom would be in the audience like with her eyes all big, like don't say the wrong thing. And I'm like,
Hmm.
okay. And now I
But I
won't
feel like
even.
most comedians do that though. Like they purposely say the wrong things, right?
Yeah, because and this is another thing about comedy that I don't like is that there are really good comedians that are good at pushing people's buttons and getting a little. I don't want to say like dark comedy. I think that's a dumb term. I feel like if you talk about like trauma and stuff on stage and you can make people laugh doing that, it's great. But if you're like
Yeah.
shitting on other people who don't deserve it, then you're just an asshole.
Yeah,
But I feel
100%.
like a lot of people care more about shock value than anything. Like this goes way back to the TikToks we're talking about. Like people talking about politics and drama and starting
Yeah.
shit between creators is because they're like, what? Like same thing with YouTube thumbnails and stuff. What is the biggest clickbait I can get? Is that people are most likely to look at something that's shocking or inappropriate or offensive than they are to something that's safe. So that's why so many comedians are like, I got to start writing jokes making fun of blah, 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 and self-loathing and stuff, because that is what's going to make people laugh and listen. And it's sad and it's true. So it is a challenge to be more like on the cleaner side, but if you can do it right, then you do it really well.
I think like Bill Burr, for example, I was introduced to him maybe in 2019, and I just started watching a couple shows.
2019?
2019.
Damn, I've been
Actually,
listening
very
since
late,
Oh,
very
okay.
late. But afterwards, like when I watch some of the stuff, there's like truth to it as well. You know, he tries to kind of shed light on like the truth of the situation, and like he throws it out there, and he'll make you feel bad a little bit, but like he, you know, kind of brings it back.
Perspective
I
is
think,
everything. Yes.
and I think that's like what's so funny about him. I feel like he brings like truth to it, and like he kind of creates his own stories and all that stuff, and he made me a fan.
And people are also always looking for a way to connect with someone. Like, I think the reason why my stoner parents jokes it so well is because so many people did not have stoner parents growing up. So they hear the perspective of someone else's life they have. And then you have people who did have them that are like, oh my God, my parents did the same thing. And that's the interesting thing, is that I didn't realize that these really specific scenarios would connect with people. And that's what you see in Bill Burr. You know, you're like, him and I kind of think the same, but that perspective means so much, is that you can go on stage and shit on women or shit on whoever. And like, yeah, you're an asshole. But if your perspective's like, yeah, you're right, some women
It's kind of
suck, you know,
reasonable,
like,
you know?
there you go. Like, I truly don't believe like you should ever make jokes about very, very super serious things. Like, I wouldn't even
Oh
bring
yeah,
them on
100%.
streams. Like, but if it is something that has affected you personally and you bring that trauma on stage, it makes it easier for people to like kind of heal from that. Like, do you know who Patton Oswalt is?
I
He
do not.
he was
Wait 1 second. Someone's at the door. Can I grab you real fast?
yeah, you can just
Sorry.
switch to my single cam. Just let me know when you're back.
I'm so sorry. Just 1 second.
1 second. Okay. Anyways, back to what I was saying. Ratatouille. Hey, do you guys know who, everyone knows who Patton Oswalt is. Patton Oswalt had I don't know if anyone has seen his special where he talks about the Tulalip Casino in Washington. That is one of my favorite jokes of all time. I forgot which one. I think it's Talking for Clapping is a special, but at the very end he talks about how he did a show at a casino in Washington, and it's one of my favorite bits ever, because he's like, this is how I knew that I sold out as a comedian, is that I did the show at Tulalip Casino in Washington, and I was supposed to do an hour set, but they decided that before I went out that they would get everybody drunk. And so I get out on stage, and within the first half hour, like my entire set, people just kept yelling things that I've been in. Like, they just kept yelling, like, Ratatouille, King of Queens. And he's like, yes, 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 I was in those movies. Yes, yes, yes. And he goes, and then my set was over. And that was the entire show. And they paid me an ungodly amount of money for it. And I was like, man, I want that goals comedian. And he's like, I've never felt so dirty in my entire life. Like, I did not tell one joke. These people played because they had like a VIP private room. They paid way too much money to do this. He didn't tell one joke, and everyone's like, that was the best show ever. He literally just went on stage while people yelled at he said they yelled my career at me, and I just nodded my head and agreed for 45 minutes, and then I left. And he goes, and that was the whole show. And I got paid more to do that show than I ever had in my entire life. And I was like, you know what? I kind of want that. But if someone's going to yell my career at me, it's just going to be me. Oh, I didn't know you were back.
Sorry. I was just listening to your story.
Yeah, if someone's going to yell my career at me, it's going to be like, I saw you on Twitch. I'm like, yep, that was me. And then just yell all the games that I've beaten. But like, that's one of my favorite bits of all time, because I'm like, oh my God, like, that's how famous he is. So like everyone knows who he is. But on the same special, it might be the same special, a different one, he has an entire bit about his wife that passed away. which is like a really, really dark subject. And he does a really, really good job of like telling
Keeping
a
it
very
positive.
oh, well, he tells this very traumatic story, like how she died in her sleep. It was horrible, and they have a daughter together. And like everyone's getting sad, but he has a part of the bit where he was like, you know, my favorite part, the one good thing about the whole situation is my daughter was like, Dad, I want to go to school. Like, I realized that she was already past the grieving process. She wanted to go live her life again. And I was very happy. And I drove her to school, and she was like 5 years old. So he dropped her off at school. And immediately when he gets out of the car, all these kids walk up to like, were you sad that her mom died? Like, all these kids are just like, and it's so funny. But for me, I'm like, that's such a brilliant way. Because like, it's so hard to like have a joke about a serious subject and still manage to make people laugh. And to me, it was just so funny because it's like he has all these little kids just reliving his trauma, and he's just like, oh God, I thought this was me. To get all these kids like, are you sad she's dead? Just because kids have no filter.
Would you say that's like a way of kind of getting it out there, I guess, like as a comedian, where you're able to talk about it, you know, kind of get it out there, and it kind of benefits
yeah, I think
the comedian itself, you know, like where he's able to talk about it, you know, get through it.
I think that's where streaming and comedy are kind of the same, because it's like you want to build a community with people who like your stuff or are like-minded or play the same games. The same thing with comedies. You want to tell jokes that people can relate to. That's why it's so hard to write jokes about games. Like that's the shitty thing, is that like now I have so much very specific humor to video games that I play, but I cannot do them on stage. So I'm like, I'm just gonna make fucking TikToks then, because like that's it. That's where TikTok comes in. But yeah, that's where I find streaming and comedy sort of the same, is that I may not have the fans or people who come out to all my shows because they like my stuff, but there are people who like specific jokes because they can relate to it. So like I used to have a lot of tall girl jokes, and I'm not even that tall. Like I'm 5'10", 5'11", which is tall. But like
that's pretty tall.
Yeah, that's like 6'2". Yes. But I thought it was huge until I told those jokes on stage. I had like 4 women who were like 6'3" come up to me and be like, looking down on me like, oh my God, I love your tall girl jokes. I totally get it. And I'm like, I'm never telling these jokes again. Like you
I'm not tall enough.
you struggle way more than I ever have. Like, and they're always like, I always struggle buying pants and shoes. I'm like, yeah, I can see that because you're 5 inches taller than me. And it's just like, and that's the shit that I love, is that like people come up to you and they're like, oh my God, like that joke you said, like I can relate to that. And it's the same thing with like having people, like, I guess the one cool thing about variety streaming, as far as like yeah, I don't get a lot of growth. Like my growth is more hindered from doing that. But like the people who stay specifically for one game, they really, really want to watch you play it and your reactions. And they're really excited to watch the next ones. And like, oh, you're streaming this game, I can't wait to watch you play. And I'm like, that shit I love. I'm like, yes, get excited, because I need you to watch
That's what
me.
kind of fuels you, you know? That kind of what fuels you to kind of keep going and kind of motivates you to stream, right?
Yeah.
Like you kind of give back for, it's kind of like a help me help you type of situation.
Yeah, you know, and like I never like I just was like, I just did this stuff because I was bored and like funny and didn't want to go back to college, like hoping that would work out. But like I said though, but there's so many people who just like streaming, they get into comedy because they're like comedy is a very easy way to meet famous people. I didn't know that. Like I've met so many famous comedians because if they come to do a show here, you know who books it. I'll be like, hey, can I like come to the show? Like I met Tom Segura my first year of comedy. And I was like, oh my God, like I'm hanging out with Tom Segura, like that's amazing. But like that's just because it's such a close community. Same with streamers, it's so easy to meet big streamers or big people in the game industry, and there's people who go into it because of those reasons. Like a lot of people do comedy so they can become actors, because it's an easy way to do it. And then those are the people I don't want anything to do with. I'm like, listen buddy, like this, we can tell that you're not actually funny and that you just paid people to be at your show, okay? Like my show in January, I'm paying you to be there to laugh at my jokes. You
don't gotta pay me. I'll be there. I'll be there.
I know my friends, I was like, I'm charging $10 a ticket. Like, you're charging us? I'm like, I had to rent a room, guys, okay? I'm not just going to gift everybody a free ticket to my show, okay? But somebody was nice enough to buy 10 tickets for me to hand out, so I'll give you a free one, you know?
Appreciate
You just have
that.
to pay
I'll
for
bring some
the,
friends over as well. I'll charge them. I'll charge
yeah.
them. I'll give you the money.
You'll charge them, and then you're like, yeah, I bought my own ticket. It's fine. But yeah, it is crazy. And so now I think like with next year, my big goal is to figure out how exactly I can bring the very niche humor I have onto my comedy on stage, because it's tough. Like where you live is great for comedy because it's LA is so big, or like I guess Southern California is so big that it's like you'll find a community everywhere, but Seattle's like just a tiny little pocket,
Yeah.
of people. And the most of the people, and even though it's a huge gaming community here because we have all the gaming industries and stuff, no one leaves their house.
Yeah, trust me, I know.
like,
I know.
like the only people who come to comedy shows are people who have social lives and do not, like if you're coming to my
Stay
comedy
indoors all
show,
24/7.
right? So I'll be like, anyone here know what Twitch is? And like one person would be like, my son watches it. And I'm like, this is, your son's not here, but this joke is for him. It's great. It's very funny. My Twitch stuff does a lot better now because I've told it so many times on stage where it wasn't doing good. I bombed on stage telling it, and now I got to the point where I'm like, okay, I can tell this joke, I can explain what Twitch is in a funny way, and then tell them why I like streaming, and then my punchline, and it works now. But it took a while. It's like playing a Valorant game.
So for all of the aspiring streamers out there, what would you say was the toughest part? Because I think if I were to compare myself to your situation, I've had a point in time where I had no viewers as well. Like if I had 10 viewers, I'd be so happy because it kind of puts you on the radar a little bit in the category of the game. But what would you say is the hardest part about kickstarting your stream and trying to find recognition?
I mean, it was hard for me. Because like you went from competing to streaming. So I
Hmm.
guess, I mean, was that like a big struggle to bring your community, to gain a community off of that? Or people are always like, oh shit, like Stewie is streaming now, let's check him out.
It's kind of tough. I don't really know the real answer, but for me, so the way I started when it came to streaming is that when I first started CS, I had this name for myself. There was a lot of attention on me. People didn't think that I was legit, and that's where I started thinking to myself,
Okay, real
okay,
quick, I don't get that. Because if you're doing good in a game, how do they not think you're legit? Like they were just like this, like you had to, like I feel like if you're playing well and someone hires you to play well, then they can't say that.
well, this was before like anyone picked me up. Like
Oh,
this was
okay.
before anyone even knew of me. But when I first started playing, I didn't know much about the game. I was just playing however I thought was fun, however I thought was good, and then I started getting these accusations that people thought I was cheating and all that stuff. And I wanted to not be that same person that goes through every iteration of the or every tier of the league in order to make it to the top tier. I wanted to be that guy that comes from nowhere and just makes it there and
Yeah.
kind of skip the levels to it. And I didn't know how to do that, but people were talking about me a lot and they thought I was cheating. And then eventually, someone with some connections hit me up and they were like, yeah, you should come play with me, blah, blah, blah. And then I would start playing with them. And then eventually, the thing about CS is very exclusive. Like
Yeah.
the pro scene keeps it exclusive, but they have the reasons to it. I'd say it's valid reasons, but eventually back then, like it was extra exclusive, I guess. But when I started playing in the more pro scene, I guess, and kind of proving myself, that's when I started streaming more often. And before all of that, I would get like almost no viewers, like maybe 10, 20 viewers. And then when I started playing the pro scene and playing a little better, that I jumped instantly to like 400 viewers, and I was very happy. I thought, okay, well,
I would be the worst like if someone's accusing me of cheating, I'd be like, yes, I have 4 arms. Like I would be the asshole totally feeding trolls, and I get fired for it. So
I think back then I was like super toxic. Like I was just a kid,
Cause you were,
and
yeah, you were just a kid.
yeah,
Like
when people were talking, nonsense, and I didn't believe it, and I was just like talk back.
that's why I
But
don't argue with anyone under 25 anymore. I'm like, I can't. We have different life
well,
experience.
actually, I'm turning 25 next month, so
Oh,
we'll
because then
be arguing a lot.
we can start arguing after you turn 25. I'm just start shitting on you, so I don't feel like I'm beating up a child. But sorry, back to what you were
No,
saying.
you're good. You're good. I was just saying that that's how I kind of grew to learn how to build a stream. I It's kind of like a cheat code where you try to get good at something and you kind of take the not normal path and you try to get prove yourself and make a name for yourself path, I guess, and then you kind of build your reputation that way. And I guess I was pretty lucky for myself because my dream was always to play on Cloud9, and I didn't have that much experience in the professional scene. Maybe just like one season of like tier 2, and I already hopped on Cloud9, and I was like super grateful. I think it changed my entire
You're like
life.
a prodigy.
Back then, yes. And now there's a
No, I'm
bunch of
not.
16, 17-year-old kids coming up
Now
and
you're
doing the
24,
same thing.
going to shitty comedy shows that I'm gonna be on. There you go. Well, I guess
But
for you, it's like it's the same thing for me. Well, my story is a little funny because I wouldn't say the word trauma, it's a little harsh, but like since all my gaming friends grew up got in competitive gaming, I just stopped having friendships with them because I didn't want to compete and shit. Or even like even things like fighting games. I'm like, I just like to play by myself. And they would literally say like, you're bad at video games, you're a fake gamer, all this shit. And I'm like, which to me, I'm like, am I? Like, I thought I just like these types of games. When I started streaming, I decided, like, I started playing Hollow Knight, and some people know in the chat, and they were like, this is a hard game. I'm like, is it? And I'm like, yeah, and you're good. I was like, I'm good at a game? Like, that was like, what?
surprising. What?
So I went out of my way to play harder games. And I beat like the Souls games, which are obviously like considered really hard. And I beat Sekiro, which is the samurai one. That's like arguably one of the hardest games ever made. And I cried when I beat it. And everyone's like, why'd you cry? I'm like, because I can't believe I fucking did this. Like, this is the shit on all the dudes that gave me shit in high school for not being a gamer. I want to see these motherfuckers try to do this. And one of them tried to. He was like, I want to try to play this game. He's like, I gave up. I was like, that's what I thought, bitch.
It feels good, right? To prove them wrong, and like it's a different type of satisfaction. It's like almost amplified at that
No,
point.
they were not friends. They were toxic. I mean, no guy was my friend in high school. They was like, I hung out with the nerds, like the cool nerd. But they weren't nerds. They were guys they were the skaters that played video games. There's a big difference. Like these guys were popular, and they were just like, Lisa's cool and plays video games. And then the minute I was like, I don't really want to play Counter-Strike anymore, and they're like, well, then you suck and don't want to be our friend anymore. And I was like, all right.
Actually, in high school, I remember that's when I first started like gaming, and I think sophomore year that's when I really focused on gaming and kind
What
of
were
dropped a
you?
lot.
Have you always just played like these types of games, or did you start somewhere else?
Oh no, I didn't play video games until like summer 2014.
Oh, so
That's when
you got good quick.
yeah, pretty quick.
Wow,
So
wow. Now I kind of want to shit on you. Anyways, Mr. No
I,
Struggles. Just kidding.
so in school, I made this friend like freshman orientation. Like I went to high school where my brother and sister went to this high school, and my sister's 5 years older and my brother's 7 years older. So my sister,
You're the
if
baby.
I was the
I'm
baby,
the baby too.
the youngest.
Mm-hmm.
And if I were to graduate like middle school, get to high school, that's exactly the timing where my sister gets to college. So we were never like at the same school, but I went to the same high school and I didn't know anyone that was going there. So freshman orientation, I remember pretty clear where it was the first day there. I sat right next to this guy and we started just shooting the shit, and then we liked each other a lot and we became good friends. And that was like probably like one of my first friends in high school. And we used to kind of do a lot together. We played basketball. We played on the same team. We did whatever. And then sophomore year was when I got injured, and that's where I started just playing video games a lot. And my friend bought me CS, and that's how I all got started into it. But
Oh.
CS eventually became an addiction, and I almost just kind of dropped everything and started going for it after seeing like, oh, you can have like a job in this, blah blah blah.
You
And
mean you
then
could be competitive and not have to play a physical sport? I will take it.
that's what I thought. I'm gonna take it,
Yeah.
And eventually I started like kind of shying away from physical activities, and like I stopped like hanging out with my friends too much. And then my friend, like, he started becoming, I guess, kind of like, I wouldn't say like possessive, but kind of like he wants his like attention. Like he wants his. He would say, I wouldn't be awake at like 11 a.m. and like he'll like call me and say, hey, like let's go do this, blah blah blah. And I'll be like, dude, I'm so tired. I don't want to wake up. And he'll be like trying to force me to wake up, trying to force me to wake up, keep calling me, spamming my phone, and
Also, 11
eventually,
a.m. is really late to sleep in. But yeah, I feel
I
you.
know, I know, but as a gamer, like that's early for us, you know. But I started telling him like I'm not waking up. I want to sleep, and I'll like hang up the phone, and then that's where we kind of went our separate ways. Like he had his own thoughts about me. I didn't care about his thoughts, and I kind of just pursued what I wanted
Aww.
to do.
He's
And then that's what
sad.
he is sad. He got his feelings hurt, and then he started like talking shit about me, blah blah blah, and all that stuff. But that's where like you kind of see what people are there for, you know, like he's kind of there for his own like benefits, and then we kind of like part our own ways, and we just go our separate ways. But actually, throughout my time, I've had a lot of people come in my stream and say stuff like, "Hey, I went to your high school," or like, "I used to go to school with you," you know, like kind of the same stuff that you were talking
Yeah, I'm
about. Where
like, cool. Also, you
yeah,
were
I
a
don't
dick
know you
to
though.
like you were a dick
Exactly, you're a dick. You
you were a
know,
dick
like,
to me in high school, and now that you're single and I'm the one left from my hometown that doesn't have a kid, you want to be my friend now? Like,
yeah, exactly. I thought the same. Like a lot of people, there
I
were a
always I
couple.
always thought you were so cute back in the day. I'm like, you bullied me, but thanks. Like,
I was the same. Like there were only very few people that were, I guess, I rubbed off on them the wrong way, and like they didn't like me, and those were the same exact people that came in my stream and said, "Hey, like we used to go to school together,
ew,
you
it's
know, this
so
and
gross.
that."
Like, I wouldn't even do that to somebody.
Most of the time, they'll
Like,
just ignore them. Like I
yeah.
would not even like give them the time of the day or like trying to
Just say,
acknowledge that
oh
I went to
yeah,
their
you owe me
school.
money.
Nah, no
I just
way.
say
If you
that. Give me money for acknowledging your presence. There you go.
But yeah, that was most of it.
That's crazy. So you got great good quick. I haven't even asked you yet. What does smoke criminal mean? Because
So when
I've had
CS
so many people say that it's a smoke criminal. I'm like, is this something I should? Is this like a boss in a video game? Who is this kid?
so in Counter Strike, when people threw smokes at the time back then, so when the way you throw your flashes and stuff like that, like if you right click it, it goes shorter, but you can't hear when you throw it. And in my head back then, I thought, well, if there's smoke there and they can't hear you throw the flash, why not just like throw it and run through all the time? And a lot of times people would either be looking at it or they would be right behind it and they would be staring at the smoke, and most of the times they get blind, and I'll just run through and I'll kill them or something like that. And that's kind of how I made the name for myself. But eventually you kind of grow from that,
Yeah, now
but
you got
it
to take
just
up
stuck with me.
smoking if you want to keep the name. So
Exactly.
now you're like, now I'm addicted to cigarettes because I have to keep this nickname up, after all this time. That's too funny. Well, I was gonna say too. So like, and like, you said that you basically started on Counter Strike, and like Valorant is like your next game. Do you have any interest in playing other games? Like off stream, it doesn't have to be on stream, obviously, because of the way you've kind of curated your. But like, do you ever look at a game and be like, "That looks cool. I want to
So
play that."
it's very so when I was younger, I would want to play games where I can grind, you know, like the typical like Maple Story or like RuneScape, you know,
Like
all that stuff.
JRPGs and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, like I would have this feeling where I just want to grind. Like if I'm traveling a lot and there's not much to do, like why not play something where I can just grind the time and like kill the time? But eventually that kind of got to the point where, I don't have the time for that. I can't like put full focus and like kind of have that time on my own to enjoy it. So I didn't do that anymore. But the way I am when I kind of have my eye on something and I have a passion for something, I'm like all in. Like I don't think about anything else.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't play other things. There's no other games I enjoy, and I just focus on that
You're
game.
probably like me where you purposely will be like, that looks fun, sounds amazing. I will never fucking touch it because it will ruin
Exactly.
my life.
Yeah.
That is me. Like my stream got me really into Gundam building, like Gunpla building. Like I make fucking mechas now, and it's like because I want a hobby that isn't like looking at a screen, right? Well, like look over
hmm
here, see all those little fucking robots sitting there. I've built those. I built
hmm
like 5 of these in a month. That's so much time. You know how many canceled dates I've had because of it? I'm like, I could go out tonight or I could build the legs on my new robot. Like
So
that's
that's
how it
like your
is.
own hobby, though.
And then
That's
right
like
here,
something you should
right?
enjoy.
And then here, see all those boxes on the ground? Those are the ones I haven't done yet. I started this
hmm
like 6 weeks ago. This is why I don't play certain games. This is why I don't watch certain movies or tell. So, as it's funny, like when you're younger, you're like, I have a backlog of games I want to play, movies I want to
hmm
watch, TV shows. And then you get older and you're like, I have just accepted the fact that I will probably never consume these, and I'm okay with that. I'm sure I'll love them. I'm sure the experience is great. But as you said, like, I don't have the time and I don't trust myself mentally to be healthy when I consume this.
It's actually very unhealthy when like you play. Like,
So
I know people
my
that.
mod, Karazar, is like, sorry, it is your fault for getting me into this. So shout out to you for ruining my life. Anyways, but
I was
yeah.
actually I was actually looking at your room when it was full screen, and I was just thinking about my own room because
Yeah, what are you in like a prison closet? Where are
no,
you right
I'm
now?
not. Everyone says that. So everyone actually says that. So I had like a different layout for this apartment, and one of my friends came and she was like saying, I think you should change the layout of your room like for your stream. You don't have like anything in your background or anything like that. And then we changed it. But I was planning to get a lot of stuff for like whatever it is for the stream in the background. But I started ordering a few things and it was more international shipping. And some of the signs and stuff, it did. I don't know what happened, but I ordered it and it never came.
It's a
And on
oh
the tracking
no.
and stuff, like it says it got shipped, but I never got it. But I've been planning to kind of make it more of a like a stream thing, but I didn't. I got lazy with it, and I
I thought
didn't.
you were like at like the EG office streaming because they have like a plain room, at least the location here. I'm like, they sure they have one in LA, and I'm like, oh wait, and I looked at your streams. I'm like, no, this is where he always streams,
Actually,
just like
so
your
how?
closet.
But my question is, like in your background, how do you come up with, whatever you want to put there?
I
Just
just
like in
have
the
too much
background.
shit. That's the
Okay, so
problem.
most of the stuff like you don't even want there actually.
Yeah, no. My living room is like pure zen. It's like plants everywhere, fuzzy carpets, like oil diffuse. My living room looks like the waiting room at a spa. It's just like I have very much curated cozy. Anyone walks my apartment, they're like immediately relaxed. This is my shit room. This is like I have too much nerdy shit. I got to get rid of it. So like if I have people over who aren't nerds, sometimes I just close the door. I'm like, you don't have to
hmm
see my room of shame. Like, this is like, this room alone looks like a 15-year-old boy's. Everything outside of this looks like an adult woman. But I don't know. I think I'm like you, where it's like, I am very indecisive about how I want things to look. And then I plant them. Like, I didn't plan to have this look like this. When I
hmm
was moving, I just planted things here, and now it's just there. I just haven't touched it yet. There you go. It's the same thing with me. When I first started going on breaks on stream, I'll show you. I didn't have a BRB stream. So what I do is I would put this pillow in my chair. It's a banana I got in Japan. It's a banana pillow. I would go on break and I would just plop him in the chair while I use the bathroom. And then it became part of my stream. Now I have banana emotes. Now people call him Banana Sun. Everyone, it's
It
like,
becomes your identity
right? Like
almost.
it wasn't anything I did on purpose. I just didn't have a BRB screen, so I was just like, I'll just plant this here. And And it's just funny. Like, same thing with Lisa Wall. My name's Lisa Wallen, not Weasel Allen.
Yeah.
But I didn't expect to stream, so I just had like the name I used to sign up to watch people stream, and now it's who I am. So it'll happen to
It kind of
you.
just comes on the fly.
Watch this. Put a piece of garbage on your wall, just like a gum wrapper, just randomly. Then that gun wrapper will become an emote in 3 months. Like, it will be who you are.
I've actually thought for so long, like, what to put here. I don't know what to put. Like, my friend just got me, like, a Christmas gift that has, like, a sign that's just my alias. And I thought those are, like, the typical things you can think of. But for me, I don't know what else to put on here. I don't know what suits well. I don't know. I don't want to get too much stuff about me, because I don't want to make it seem like I'm obsessed with myself, you know? Like, it's not that way.
I'm obsessed with myself. It's fine. You should be. Everyone should be obsessed with themselves.
I mean, to a certain extent, but when it comes to, like, decoration, I think I'm, like, the worst at it. And, like, creativity.
Sorry.
I could critique.
My camera stopped focusing, so I gotta get to focus again because we have 5 minutes left.
You're good. Don't worry about it.
No, like, yeah, who cares? Like, it's like, I love when people have, like, the stream signs of their names. Like, if your name is cool, I don't want to buy a neon sign that says Weasel Lolin on it. That's annoying. I would rather have it say something else. My lighting sucks in here, but again, it's just like, whatever. I don't care. I just left it how it was because
it's just comfortable.
Like, it's like once you're dipped into a game, no one cares anyway. You're just a tiny corner on the stream. Like, it's so funny because most of the big streamers, like, especially in, like, your community, especially the dudes, they have, like, they look like they're streaming in a closet. Most of them.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
Most of the time,
Like, women are always the one that have crazy setups. Like,
yeah, they have good aesthetics. Like,
guys are streaming on a toilet 90% of the time. We wouldn't even know. Like, it's just too funny. But yeah, I mean, it is nice. Like, right now you have a nice aesthetic, but you definitely need something.
I need more stuff in the background for sure.
Hang up a jersey or something, you know? Like, again, it's just one thing on the wall is all you really need.
It was just tough because when I first moved here, so I was rushing to find a place on where to live. And right now I'm living at Huntington Beach, and I live like 3-minute walk away from the beach, and this apartment was recommended from a friend, and I moved here rushingly, and the apartment that was given to me, it sucks because the natural light throughout the day, it does not get in here. Like, my room, it does not get in here. And it only gets in, like, the living room around, like, when the sun's just about to go down. So for the longest time, I've been planning to, you know, kind of change units, but there was never an available unit. So I kind of got demotivated to kind of, you know, decorate everything. I never know how long I'm going to stay here. I don't know when I'm going to leave.
Same. I'm like, I don't want to change things around because I might leave in 6 months.
Yeah, I thought the same. So maybe it's not worth the time, you know, but I definitely should add some stuff. I say should, but I feel like I'm going to procrastinate again.
Who cares? I mean, it's also like your personality. You're like, I don't care. I just want to play the game. And that's fine. It's not like I made a banana pillow my entire personality, but, you know, you did. And it's totally fine. But we are at time. See how quickly 2 hours goes by. You were all nervous to get on the show, and then look.
I wasn't nervous for the show. I was just more nervous in the moment, you know? There's a lot of people watching, a lot of people talking.
Well, it's like you, where you're like, consistency. I didn't stream for a whole week, so I have like half the viewers right now. So it's like, sorry I had to go on a trip, and you know what? I don't care. The real ones are here, and that's all that matters, and they all love you, and there's some people from your community as well that are here. So anyways, we are at time, and this is the last Lisa's Lair of the year, and we had the coolest kid at EG, me, and then also Stewie here as well. I'm just kidding. You're the coolest. So if you guys aren't already following both of us on everything, then you should be. And then also come back in January when we restart Lisa's Lair again. So yeah, that's really it. And have a good night, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Goodbye.
Bye.